Good morning, Abuja. Good morning, Nigeria. It's a beautiful time to be here again on your screens. My name is Daniel Black on Agriculture for Today and Tomorrow. How have you been doing? How has the weather been handling you? How has the price of things been handling you? How have you been taking it? Are you adjusting? Civil servants, how are you adjusting? Have you written for a raise in your pay? I know that business people have increased their own prices. It's a circular motion where people selling one item are increasing the price of what their items to be able to afford other things that they don't have that they need, and it's been a circular motion. And you hear people say that what I bought yesterday for X naira, today I cannot even get it for X times 2. You have to multiply by 3 or 4, so it has a very exponential increase. And the food sector is not taken out of this. The food sector is fully concerned and fully involved in this skyrocketing of prices. And that is what we do here. The essence of Agriculture for Today and Tomorrow is to educate, sensitize, and empower everybody, both farmers and non-farmers, to be able to come into the agricultural sector, because at this juncture we need all hands on deck to ensure that food security comes to stay in Nigeria. Like I said, this is Agriculture for Today and Tomorrow, a media for agricultural development program of GSAI. Here we promote smart solutions to get greener harvests. On yesterday's episode, we discussed smart farming. And we talked about, we did definition of basic terms in smart farming. We talked about the advantages of smart farming. And then we went a whole lot as proposing smart farming as one of the ways to go in ensuring that food security is made sure in Nigeria. So today we are going to be continuing and possibly concluding the episode of smart farming, the future of agriculture in Nigeria, right? So today we'll be talking about key technologies, key components of smart farming. And yes, the feedback we got from our social media, yes, you can follow us on our social media. You can actually like and comment on our episodes. The feedback I got from yesterday is, smart farming cannot be adopted in Nigeria. We do not have the infrastructure and all. But it is surprising to know that we have different organizations. We have people that have already started adopting. And when we say smart farming, it does not have to be 100% technology. Smart farming is all about using data. It's all about using knowledge to farm. You do not just farm as a gamble. You farm using historical data. You farm based on accurate and precise decision-making techniques. That is what smart farming is all about. So you may apply data, you may not apply data, but by the time, you may apply tech, you may not apply tech, depending on your capability, depending on your capacity. But you can actually do smart farming as a smallholder farmer. You can actually practice smart farming as a commercial scale farmer. So you need to understand why and how, the whys and hows of smart farming. And we're going to be talking about key components of smart farming. And the very first component we're going to be talking about is precision agriculture. Precision agriculture is precise, is the word I've taken from the word precise, where we practice agriculture in precise terms, in precise quantities, and in precise activities. We are not just doing activities for doing, my father used to weed 4 times, so I must weed 4 times. My father used to apply fertilizer 3 times, so I must apply fertilizer 3 times. In precision agriculture, we answer the question why and how. Why do I need to apply this fertilizer, and how do I need to apply this fertilizer? In precision agriculture, we answer why do I need to weed and how do I need to weed, to ensure that we maximize every effort and every activity being carried out. Right. So in precision agriculture, we have the issue of the use of drones, the use of sensors, the use of drone sensors, irrigation techniques, and weed techniques, fertilizer application. Now, yesterday we also mentioned how you can calculate the quantity of fertilizer being needed, calculate the quantity of water needed per crop. This data is out there, this research is out there. We have so many people who have drilled boreholes for their farm, kept 10,000 liters of water in their farm, and they planted a crop, and they did not calculate the water need of their crop. And at the end of the day, even with the water they have in their farm, they are unable to sufficiently water their crops, because every crop at every point has different quantity of water that it would have to survive and grow properly. So the water you use to probably irrigate your water leaf farm, or probably irrigate your potato farm, is definitely not the quantity of water you will use to irrigate your yam farm, right? And it's also not the quantity of water you will use to irrigate your plantain farm, as the case may be. So you have to have this data, you have to have this information, you have to have this knowledge of the quantity of water needed. So in agribusiness management, you find out that water management is a course on its own, where you have to understand the quantity of water, the quality of water, and of course the storage of water, to be able to have a productive and good yield. So water is one of that. Fertilizer management is another thing where we have to ensure, not just fertilizer now, nutrient management. Most people apply fertilizers, most people apply nutrients to their crops. They use organic, we call it organic, we call it synthetic, and all sorts of names, without actually knowing the proper soil nutrients need of that particular farm. Not just the soil nutrient need, also the crop nutrient need. So you find out that if you're planting in a soil that was in a place that was used as a mechanic workshop before, the nutrient need of that soil will be different from a place that was used as a dump site as a community dump site before, right? Because the kind of chemicals that have been placed in that land, imagine you using a place that was probably used for cement, as a cement factory before. The nutrient need already, that soil will be so condensed, will be so dense with calcium carbonate, that's limestone, for a land that was used for a block making factory, or yes, a construction site before. That soil will be rich in calcium carbonate, but may be very, very, very deficient in nitrogen, may be very deficient in every other thing. And you will plant your crops, and you will find out that your crops may grow, or your crops may be very stunted, and you keep on applying different crops, different fertilizers, and not knowing the exact type of fertilizer you need. Now, depending on the previous and the historical use of your soil, you may have very, very little worms, very, very little erosion in that soil. That soil may be so compact. If it is a place where tractors have driven, where cars were driven, imagine that you're using a place that was formerly a road, and maybe due to something or the other, that place is no more used and grasses grew on it, and you went to farm in that place. If it was formerly a road, if it was formerly a football field, if it was formerly a place where the soil has been compacted, you will get to understand that the soil nutrients, the soil requirements of that particular farm is different. So in precision agriculture, we get to pick out data, we get to pick out information of the soil, of the water, of the nutrients, of everything that we need to farm there. So whether you're doing as a small farm in your backyard, the question is, what has your soil been used for previously? And one of the major ways of finding out this is doing a soil test, bringing in a soil scientist to carry out a soil test. A soil test is done, and then you get to see in real time all the parameters, all the nutrients, all the different factors that you need to put into consideration in your soil. So by the time you do a soil test, you'll be able to make informed decision. Do I need to invest more in nutrient-based fertilizers? Do I need to invest more in potassium-based fertilizers? Do I need to invest more in calcium-based fertilizers and the likes? Because all these fertilizers have different needs, different uses. That's why you have NPK 10-10-10, NPK 20-20-20, you have NPK 12-17-17 and the likes, because these different fertilizers are applied at different times and for different purposes. So if you're practicing smart agriculture today and you want to practice precision agriculture, you need data, you need information. You, like many people in their backyard, they want to plant, they want to do sack farming. They just go to a soil, oh, we've seen it is loamy soil, it is dark in complexion, and then they put it into a bag and then they take it down. Do you know what the soil condition, do you know what the current or the previous soil condition of that place? Most people plant and then they get disappointed and they're like, this is not for me, farming is not for me. You do not know the soil that you packed. The fact that grasses are growing on that soil does not necessarily mean that other things will grow on it. Most people use sack farming to do yam, which is very, very beautiful, which would be very, very nice if you have proper soil. And if you are unable to get soil that has all the necessary nutrients, with a soil test you will be able to tell what kind of nutrients you need to invest in. There are soils that you plant, everything comes out very green, but you do not have fruiting. It does not fruit. It's not your village people. The soil has so much nitrogen. The leaves will grow very beautifully. The leaves will grow very big. The leaves will be very, very green and beautiful, and you are proud of your crops. But it will do very, very wrong, do very, very poorly in terms of flowering, in terms of fruiting. And then you are busy here buying urea to provide for that crop. You will find out that you're putting urea, you're putting excess nitrogen, the crop will continue growing very, very green and very, very big, but you will not have your fruits, you will not have your flowers, and then you will now wonder if you are just planting for aesthetic purposes. So in precision agriculture, we get to use a whole lot of data and a whole lot of information. Now, beyond that, we've talked about water, we've talked about fertilizer, we've talked about water, fertilizer, and of course, weed management. Weed management is very, very key. In precision agriculture, there are cultures that we've seen where people weed and leave it in their farm. In smart farming, people this is not a very, very very good habit, because most people want to say, oh, it will decompose and provide nutrients for the soil. But you find out that most times those heap of weed that you've heaped in one place, trying to decompose it in the soil, will now serve as habitat, will now serve as a place for pests, for ants, and so many other pests will now stay in. And you find out that if grasses are growing in your farm again, it is from that location that it starts to spread. Most of the seeds of the grass that did not die will definitely be sprouted, will definitely be spread by wind, by water, by even insects and animals. Lizards will come, eat them, take them and go and excrete them elsewhere, and they will germinate. So you get to find out that managing weed in your farm will become very, very strenuous. So in smart farming, we weed off. If we must use it for mulching, if we must use it, we bury it in the soil and then pick it up after a while in a different location. Because also, weeds also transmit diseases. If a weed was planted in a disease infested soil, and then you now use it as your mulch, as your fertilizer, you will find out that you will also infest that particular soil. I hope you know that soils have diseases too. Soils have nematode too. Soils have fungi too. And if you are not conscious of your farming practices, you will transmit diseases from one soil location, from one soil area to another location. People that want to fill their topsoil, people that want to do land filling before they plant, and all of those cases. Have you found out, have you gotten the data, have you gotten the information that is needed to enable you decide on what kind of crops? There are some farms that you need to actually plant root crops to be able to spread and open up those the soil before you're able to plant vegetables. Vegetables are very light on the air, very light, and are not able to take up nutrients in compacted soil. So you need to plant root crops like cassava, like onions, like potatoes, like yam, to be able to open the soil system and ensure that the soil is now proper. After that, you can now decide to replenish the soil with nutrients and then plant your vegetables. So the question is, are you picking the necessary data? Are you taking conscious effort to get the necessary information you need to get before you plant on that soil, before you use that soil? Today we have discussed about water. Today we've discussed about nutrients. Today we've discussed about soil history. Those are three necessary information you need to gather in the practice of smart farming to be able to make proper decision and take proper decision to maximize your yield, to maximize every activity you carry out in the farm. That will be a wrap today. That will be all we'll be taking today. We'll continue tomorrow and still talk about different things, different factors you need to consider in smart farming to ensure that every effort you put, every energy you put into farming comes out in bountiful harvest. Thank you and see you tomorrow.